We are back, chat, and we are ready to start on red. So, first red card. Ansrag's Rampage. What the fuck is Ansrag? I mean, I will probably see it later. 5 mana for a sorcery. Destroy all artifacts you don't control. Clue tokens are a thing in this set, remember? Then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of artifacts were put into the graveyard from the battlefield this turn. You may put a creature card exiled this way onto the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. I think this is too niche. For limited, I think this is too niche. I don't think this is particularly good. I mean, maybe because there's a bunch of artifact stuff, but like, there's every chance you play this and it just does nothing. And in limited, you can't guarantee you'll get a good creature off the top either, so there's every chance you do this and get like a 1 mana creature and it gains haste and you're super not excited about it. I think this card's too expensive, and I don't think it does enough. Well, it's more like gambling, and I don't think it's particularly good gambling in limited either, so yeah, I don't think this is good. Bolrak Clan Basher. Okay. 6 mana for a 3/2 double strike trample. Okay. Or you can disguise it and bring it out for 5. For 5, a 3/2 double strike trample, is that good? It's fine. Double strike is scary. Double strike with pump spells and all that sort of stuff is fucking terrifying. And trample. Actually, yeah, these are the 2 keywords you want on a spell if you're on a card if you're planning on pumping it and just swinging into your opponent's mouth. Yeah, okay. I think this can be very scary. I'm not going to evaluate this as a really good card, but I am saying you could probably run this card and just Oko your opponent in 1 turn with this thing. Like, play this. Your opponent lets it live. Next turn you swing 3 pump spells. It's like a 10-9 with double strike and trample, and your opponent's either sacking their entire board to the first strike or dying instantly. This card with some pump can be very scary. Case of the Burning Masks. For 3 mana, when it enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to target creature and opponent controls. It's slightly overpriced lightning bolt, sure. Or lightning strike. To solve, 3 or more sources you control dealt damage this turn. Okay, so that's spells or attacking, that's fine. Solved, sacrifice this case, exile the top 3 cards of your library, choose one of them, you may play that card this turn. I still don't understand how this works. So, I need to... Right, I'm going to have to go look it up. Because I don't understand... Oh. Mechanic. There we are. Case is an enchantment type. Residential motion is 3rd card type. Okay. Case is a variation of Saga. Sure. Case of 3 abilities. The first ability is a standard ability which has no rules attached to it. This ability is always active for its controller regardless of whether the quest is solved. The second ability is the to solve ability. It lists an intervening if condition for the player to achieve. The to solve ability triggers during its controller's end step, but only if the conditions have been met. Spelled out, it would read at the beginning of your end step if condition this case is solved. The third ability is the solved ability, which only takes effect if the case is marked as solved. These implicitly have activate this card only if card is solved or as long as card is solved X. While players may mark these enchantments with counters to remind themselves of the current state of change, being solved as a designation is either true or not and does not rely on external markers much like classes. Okay. I suppose you don't have to. So this is another thing. You don't. So for solved, I'm assuming it doesn't automatically sacrifice the case. You can sacrifice the case when you feel like it. So this is the other one that was confusing me before, where it's like sacrifice the case, all cards in your graveyard can be played. So solved is a state, right? Yes. Players may mark these jump being solved is a designation that is true or not, and does not rely on external. So yeah. So solved is a state that the card is in. So that means when you solve this card, you don't have to do anything with it. It is solved. You can sacrifice the case whenever you want, and then exile, and then you may play these cards. Okay. So that makes these cases better than I thought, because I was confused before. So what happens is you put for 3, play this. It's a slightly more expensive lightning strike, sure, and then if you do 3 or more damages, 3 or more sources of damage dealt in a turn, it becomes solved. So it moves down to this state, and then sits there until you need to look at the top 3 cards and play one of them, and you just sack this without paying any mana and do the bottom effect. This is better than I thought for this case and the other cases we were looking at. The white one, we saw one of the white cases that was like when you gain 5 life become, and then solved, sacrifice it to give things. That's what we were talking about. That's good because you can sacrifice it. You sacrifice whenever you want, not when it becomes solved, from what I can tell. So these cases are good. At least this is fine because, I mean, it's removal. Removal is always going to be good. The solved thing is really nice as well. So I'd say this is probably good. 3 mana. When this case enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw 2. Solve, you have no cards in hand. Okay. At the beginning of your upkeep, discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. So it's untap, upkeep, draw. So at the beginning of your upkeep, so essentially if you didn't have any cards in your hand, draw 2, then draw a 3rd. And then you have 3 cards to get rid of in that turn to trigger, draw, and then draw 2, and then draw again, right? So for mono red, or for red aggro, this is really good. Because you just vomit your hand, you play cards out, you get down to having no cards in hand, and this is draw 3 cards a turn, as long as you have been playing every card. So you just keep going, just keep playing cards over and over and over and over and over again. Play everything in your hand again and again and again and again, and you will keep drawing cards. I legit might play this in my mono red burn deck that I've been trying to get to work for a while. I don't know how good this is in limited, because it depends. If there's like red aggro cards and you can just spray your hand out like an idiot, this is probably still really good, right? I mean, yeah, a massive, massive card advantage. Your opponent's drawing 1 card a turn, you're drawing 3, as long as you're playing them. Like, the only way this doesn't work is if you have too many lands in hand. And I mean, maybe you can just discard them to other things. This is probably fine. This is probably good. I mean, is it? Yeah, it's probably good. It's probably good. Caught red-handed. 5 mana for game control. Okay. Yeah, these cards always cost about 4 or 5 mana. Usually 4. But this one can't be countered and gives whatever it's attacking suspect. So it has menace when you're swinging and then can't be blocked for when you're attacking to your opponent the following turn. I don't like these cards. I never pick them. I think they're kind of crap. But there's always that one time that I play I think it was Was it the last set we played? We played like a giant green dude and then got it stolen and smashed into our mouth, and we essentially died to our own creature. There's always the chance that this happens, but yeah. The chase is on. 3 mana for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+0, gains first strike until end of turn investigate. Meh. Eh. Eh. Again, I'm never too excited about these sort of cards. There was the 2 mana gets first strike in the last set and you get a treasure token, and that was... eh. I think this is eh as well. I mean, you get to draw a card with it later, so it's probably fine, but like... bleh. Concealed weapon. 2... Also, is that really concealed? It's bigger than he is. My concealed weapon. Equipped creature gets +3/+0. Or you can disguise it. Okay. And when it's turned face up, you can just attach it to target creature you control. I actually don't mind this. For 3 mana, it's just a 2/2. And then you swing with it. Or if you can't swing with it, you just turn it face up for 3 and attach it to a creature and make a creature like big. Again, I don't really care for equipments, but this is kind of okay because it's like a creature before being an equipment, and then you can just make it into equipment when you need it, and it automatically becomes attached. Yeah, it's okay. Connect it, because also you can block with this. If your opponent swings, you can block with the 2/2 and then just turn it into a weapon, and you don't take the damage because you still block the creature and you just get the weapon. Like, this is fine. It's a good card, I think. Connecting the dots. 2 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. You can't look at it. Okay. 2 mana, discard your hand, sacrifice connecting dots, put all cards exiled with connecting the dots into their owner's hand. Okay. Again, this is for like a super aggro red deck where you've like vomited your hand and then you just swing with like 5 dudes and exile 5 cards, and then you tap 2 to discard nothing and just put 5 cards into your hand. I don't know how good this is in limited. I'm gonna say probably not very good because it's a 2 mana enchantment that says I do nothing in red. You'd prefer just a... if you're playing aggressive enough that this is useful, you probably just... in limited, you'd probably just prefer to have an extra dude hitting your opponent. I don't think this is that good. Maybe in standard, like, it's just, you know, you put it in mono red, maybe, I don't know. Convenient target. A 1 mana enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, suspect the enchanted creature, so it has menace, but it can't block, and it gets +1/+1. And you can return this to your hand. So you can suspect multiple of your own creatures and give them all menace, I guess? Maybe this is good. I mean, it's 1 mana +1/+1. It's fine. And gives them menace, which is probably good if you're just going to be the aggressor. If you know you're going to be the aggressor, this is a good card, because you could just give everything you control menace and just start beating ass. Again, it's an enchantment though. Enchantments have the same problem of just like, creature's gone, spell fizzles, unlucky. You do return it from your graveyard to your hand though, thinking about it. No, you can't return it from the battlefield. I didn't read that correctly. But you return it from your graveyard. It's a bit slow though. I mean, maybe you take one of these just for infinite value, but it feels slow. Cornered Crook. 5 mana for a 5/4. Okay. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice an artifact. When you do, Cornered Crook deals 3 damage to any target. With clue tokens, this is good. 5 mana for a 5/4 that can just ping any target for 3. I'd pay that in limited any fucking day of the week. I like this card. This is a good card. I think in red you want to vacuum up as many of these as you can, and then just have, you know, a bunch of ways to create artifacts like clue tokens and stuff. So this is a good card. Crime Novelist. 3 mana for a 1/3. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put +1/+1 counter on Crime Novelist and add 1. Ooh. That's good. If you have a way to just sacrifice a bunch of artifacts and just ramp up a bunch of mana, I don't know if there is. I don't think I've seen anything in this set that can sack anything for free. No, there's been a bunch of Enter the Battlefield effects, but there hasn't just been like sacrifice. Yeah. Okay, I don't think this is too gross. But I think this is still a good card. Like, whenever you sacrifice... So, essentially, again, it makes your... It makes your clues cost 1. Because when you sacrifice a clue, you put a +1/+1 counter on this and generate a red. If you have that blue guy and this, it makes your clues cost nothing to sacrifice. Because you sacrifice them for 1 but generate the 1 red. So then you can just sacrifice everything. This guy gets buff as fuck. I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily really good by himself, but I'd say he's probably decent. Like, I think this is actually a pretty good card. Yeah, I'd say this is a good card in Limited. Like, it generates mana when you do stuff. Like, it can't be bad. And it gets big. That's kind of all you want. Like, big and... Yeah, I think this is a good card. Demand Answers. 2 mana. As an initial cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or discard a card. Draw 2 cards. Sacrifice 1 clue token that would usually cost you 2 to discard to draw a card, and draw 2. It's good. It's fine. And I don't know how useful it is, but I'd say it's good. Expedited Inheritance. Okay, this is mythic. 2 red. Whenever a creature is dealt damage, its controller may exile that many cards from the top of their library. They may play those cards until the end of their next turn. Is that good? I'm not sure that's good. Because it affects your opponent as well. I would not play this card in Limited. I would not play this in Limited. I would never ever touch this card in Limited. You have no idea what you're up against. You don't know if your opponent's playing something better than what you've got. Your opponent might have fucking 6 mythics in their deck. I would not play this card with a 10-foot pole. I am not lucky enough. My opponent would just fucking top deck something stupid and annihilate me with this shit. No way. I am not going anywhere near this card. Expose the Culprit for 2. Instant speed, choose 1 or both. That's pretty good. Exile target face... Turn target face down creature face up. Okay. Exile any number of face up creatures you control with disguise in a face down pile. Shuffle that pile, then cloak them. What? Okay. So this is if you're playing a bunch of like the disguise cards and you've turned them all face up or and you get all the triggered effects and then you just turn them all face down again and your opponent has no idea what's what. Sure. You could also do this in response to them being targeted, right? That would be quite funny. Your opponent targets the creature that they're scared of, and you just exile your entire field, turn it all face down, and your opponent's spell fizzles, and they have no idea what they're trying to target. That could be entertaining. I don't know if this card is good, necessarily. Have we seen any really good flip face up cards? I mean, there's like There was the blue squid. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is good. I don't think it's great. I think this is a bit of a meme card more than anything else. Felonious Rage. 1 mana. Target creature gets +0, gains haste until end of turn. When it dies, create a detective. Okay. It's not bad. Play a big dude, give it haste, swing. Your opponent has to block it. When it dies, you just make an extra dude. Sure. It's not awful. It's not fantastic, but it's not awful. Frantic Scapegoat. 1 mana for a 1/1 with haste. When it enters the battlefield, suspect it. So it has menace and haste. Whenever one or more other creatures enter the battlefield under your control, if it's suspected, you may suspect one of the other creatures. If you do, it's no longer suspected. This is a good little card, actually. I like this card. I would 100% run this card in red. I'll tell you why. 1 mana for a 1/1 haste menace. You start hitting your opponent. They play 2 cards that can block this thing without dying. You play a bigger dude, like a 4/4. And then that is suspected, so it has menace. And this is just a 1/1 blocker. And then you can start swinging with the 4/4. They might have to double chump. This thing's back on the defense. I like this card. This card's good. I would take a couple of these cards in my red deck. Thank you very much. Fugitive Code Breaker. Okay. 2 mana for a 2/1 prowess haste. Disguise for 6, but the cost is reduced for each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. Okay. When it's turned face up, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. Again, this is... I'm not sure how good this is in limited. This is like a super red aggro card. This again, this probably goes into my red burn deck that I've been trying to faff about with. But yeah. How good is this card in limited? It's okay. The problem is you're not going to have, like, in limited, you're not going to have that many instant or sorcery cards that are going to make this thing cheap. But it is still, if you turn it face up in the late game and you've got no cards in hand, you can discard 0 cards and draw 3. This is still draw 3. So this could be very good. It's just not very powerful when you want to turn it, when you want to flip it face up. I think in limited it's not incredible. I think it's still good, but it's not like game-breaking good. Not like the black cards we were getting fucking horrified by. I think there is a... I think in standard I'll probably fiddle with this and see what I can do with it. But yeah. Galvanize. 2 mana. Deal 3 damage to target creature. If you draw into... It's removal. We love it. Sweet. Removal. And if you draw more cards, it's better removal. Gearbane Orangutan. 3 mana for a 2/2 with reach. Okay. That destroys an artifact, or you can sacrifice an artifact to make it a 4/4. With glue tokens, that's not bad. I mean, 3 mana for a 4/4 with reach? I'd pay that. I think this is a good card. Like, it's a bit upsetting that this is a good card in limited, because, you know. But no, I mean, this is a good common card. I'd be fine with having like 2 or 3 of these. 2 probably, not 3. 2 of these. Yeah, I think this card's good. I mean, it is a 3 mana 2/2 with reach sometimes, but I think with the amount of artifacts that are going to be hanging about, it's most likely a 3 mana 2/2 that destroys one of your opponent's artifacts, even if it's only a clue token. And at best, it's, I mean, when you've got some spare artifacts going, it's a 3 mana 4/4 with reach, which is very good. Goblin Mask Maker. A 1 mana 1/2. Whenever it attacks face down spells you cast this turn, costs 1 less to cast. So, is this face down spells you cast? So this means disguise. You play 2 to put the face down card, right? It's not the flip up card. It's not because you're not flipping. It's not the flipping up cost that this makes cheaper. It's the playing cost. So you play this on turn 1, and then you attack with it on turn 2, and you can play one of your disguise cards as a 2 mana 2/2 with ward 2 instead of needing to have the 3. I think this is good. If you're doing stuff with face down spells, I think this is good because it just lets you get them out cheaper and faster, and more of them. I think this is a good card. Harried Dronesmith. 4 mana for a 2/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature comes flying. It gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. It's a good card. There's a lot of stuff that wants to do stuff with artifacts like this. So you can make a Thopter and then you can sacrifice it in your second main phase to the Gearbane Orangutan, and it's a 4/4 now. Black had a bunch of sacrifice creature stuff. This just lets you sacrifice that. This is a good card. Just, it makes a dude every turn. Anything that makes a dude every turn, especially for free, is good. In limited. Just is. Even if you have to sacrifice them at the beginning of the end step, you can sacrifice them with other things for value. This is good. Oh, they get a dragon. 6 mana for a 6/6 flying trample dragon. Already good. This is a great card. This is the best card we've seen in red so far. When Incinerator of the Guilty deals combat damage to a player, you may collect evidence X. When you do, Incinerator of the Guilty deals X damage to each creature and each planeswalker that player controls. This is a game-winning card. This is the best card in red. It's not the best card we've seen. I still stand by the 6/5 flying bloodthirsty nightmare fuel vampire of doom. Is better than this because if you have that vampire, it costs 6, and you have this dragon, it costs 6. They hit each other. You take 1 damage from this. Actually, is this better? No, this has got trample. This is the better card. Is it? I don't know, because then you'd have to evaluate the colors. This guy's to black removal, and there's like murder, so you could just be like, oh, flying dragon, boom, dead, gone. Whereas the 6/5, I suppose it does die to that 2 mana burn spell if you draw 2 cards, but then it had ward sacrifice a creature, so you'd also have to sacrifice a creature and you'd still take the 2 damage. Okay. I stand by the vampire being a better creature, but this is still scary as fuck. Also, where's the fucking... This? So for 7 mana, you're telling me... For 7 mana, I offer you an 8/6 with haste, flying, and trample, and when it deals to your damage to your opponent, you can exile your entire graveyard and board wipe them. I'd pay 7 for that. I'd pay 7 for a flying, trample, haste, board wipe creature. Yeah, I'd pay 7 for that. This card's scary. This is another... So, there've been, like, 3 terrifying cards for limited. This and the 2 black mythics are fucking terrifying. If you see your opponent play them, you're probably just conceding. And if you see them in your pool, you take it. They're fucking incredible. Every single one of them. Innocent Bystander. 2 mana... Whenever Innocent Bystander is dealt 3 or more damage, investigate, and it's a 2/1. Sure. It's fine. You probably just block something with 3 power and go, hey, look, I get an investigation. Woo! Knife. Okay. Ooh, this is good. This gives first strike. This is the best one so far. As long as it's your turn, a equipped creature has +1/+0 and has first strike. This is gross. First strike is so good on the attack. And you can just sacrifice it and draw a card later. This is a good one. I would actually consider picking this. And I don't like equipment, so... Oh God, Krenko, what are you doing here? Please don't break every format. 3/3 with haste, and you can sacrifice an artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on each goblin you control. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard, if you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. It gains haste. Chat, I'm scared. This is scary. If you get a crime novelist and a Krenko, he's got haste. So come down. Say you've got 3 clue tokens. He comes down. You sacrifice an artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on himself and 2 +1/+1 counters on the bard. This is turn 3, let's say. Let's say you've only got 1. But the bard generates the 1 red mana, which you immediately pay to also get yourself a goblin. So the bard is turn 2, right? Oh, it is turn 3. Okay, not quite as good. Because they're both turn 3. But if you've got the bard out and you play Krenko on turn 4 and just tap him and sacrifice, the bard goes up to being a 3/5. Krenko goes up to being a 4/4. You also get a 1/1. And you've still got 2 there. Yes. Okay. Krenko is also very good. This guy's scary. He makes goblins. He buffs goblins. He has haste. So he can do it immediately. There are other goblins in the set. This is a scary card. This is a scary card. It's not original Krenko scary. It's not, double the number of goblins you've got and fucking your opponent concedes. But it's still, again, he's making a dude every turn off himself. Well, for 1 mana, but still. This is scary. This is a good card. If you see this, I think you take this and you probably just take every goblin you find. Oh my god. Krenko's Buzz Crusher. A 4/4 flying trample. What is red? What is happening with red and black compared to the other colours? When Krenko's Buzz Crusher enters the battlefield, for each player, destroy up to 1 non-basic land that player controls. For each land destroyed this way, its controller may search the library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. This is really good. Again, not necessarily in limited, because limited people are probably all playing the same basic lands. Actually, no, what am I saying? It's a 4/4 flying trample for 4. It's fucking great in limited. Shut my mouth. Yeah, this is great in limited, this is great in standard, this is just a good card. It's a 4/4 flying trample for 4 that also blows up lands. If your opponent's playing some, multicolored deck, you just nuke it. This is a good card. God. Red's got some really disgusting cards in it as well. Red and black are eating good this set. Lamplight Phoenix. 3 mana for a 3/3 flyer, and when it dies, you may exile it and collect evidence 4. If you do, it just comes back. This is a really good card again. What is happening? Why? Like, white had a 4 mana board wipe. Sure. Blue had a weird look at the top cards and make a Thopter card that I thought was interesting, and that flyer that I said was busted in a format of some kind. But black's just vomiting mythic rare absolute game winners, and red's just fucking, I don't know, just spilling these great cards out of its pockets. What the hell is happening with black and red? Okay, again, this is you first picked this. This is all 3 of these cards are incredible game-winning cards by themselves. This is This is a massive army of zombies. If you're goblins, if your opponents can't deal with it immediately, and even if they do target it immediately, you still probably get the effect to get 1 goblin out of him. This is just a flying 4/4 trampler, which is disgusting. And this is a flying 3/3 that your opponent can't kill, as long as you have cards in your graveyard, which you probably do. Jesus, Red's got some cards. Red and black. Red and black this set. I mean, legitimately, with some of the cards in here, I don't even know if you care about synergies. I think you just play red, black, good shit, and make your opponents suffer. If you get it in limited, that is. What? Offender at large. Oh, offender at large. Sorry, I don't know. I had a stroke there for a second. 5 mana, 5/4. When offender at large enters the battlefield or is turned face up to one target creature gets +2/+0, and you can turn it face up for 5. 5 mana, 5/4 with upside. Sure, you probably don't play this. It's probably very generically meh. Person of interest, 4 mana for a 2/2. Okay. When it enters the battlefield, suspect it and create a detective token. I mean, for the 2 power deck, this is probably really good because it makes a bunch of it makes multiple 2 power guys, which triggers all your 2 power effects. But just by itself, I suppose it is 4 power across 2 bodies, one of which has menace and can't block. Probably okay. For 4 mana, yeah, it's probably fine. Pyrotechnic Performer. Okay. 2 mana for a 3/2, or you can turn it face up for 1 if you paid 3 to put it face down, so it's like 4 in total, sure. Whenever Pyrotechnic Performer or another creature you control is turned face up, that creature deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. That's pretty good. I mean, you turn this face up with like 4 cards, turned face down, your opponent has to deal with it immediately or suffer the consequences of just like, burned in the face. Yeah. This is good. I think this is good. Again, it depends how much disguise you actually have, but disguise seems to be relatively spread through all of the colors. So you can probably get this to kill your opponent. No matter what color combo you're in, as long as you've got enough disguise cards and your opponent doesn't answer it. There does seem to be a lot of removal, though, so your opponent could probably answer it, so I mean, I'd take it. It's a 2 mana 3/2 at worst, and at best it's a 4 mana 3/2 that deals 3 to your opponent and threatens more. Yeah, I'd play it. Good card. Reckless Detective. 2 mana for a 0/3. Whenever Reckless Detective attacks, you may sacrifice an artifact or discard a card. If you do, draw a card, and it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. You're getting scarier by the moment. Okay? Stop it. Again, bunch of clue tokens. Krenko, because this is... So sacrificing the artifact is just for the +1/+1 counter on each goblin. So you could just attack with this, sacrifice a clue token, generate the 1 mana and put the +1/+1 counter on the bard, use the 1 mana to make a goblin from this guy, and then draw a card. And this guy gets +2/+0 and becomes a 2/3. This is there's a lot of synergy going on with the Krenko in here. I feel like the Krenko could be a real game breaker if you see it in your limited pool. Red Herring. 2 mana for a 2/2 with haste, attacks each combat if able, and you can draw a card off it. Yeah. I don't mind this card. It's fine. It's a 2 mana 2/2 with haste that attacks. Sure. And you can always just sack it and draw a card, because it's a clue. Yeah, pretty good. Rubble Belt Braggart. 5 mana for a 5/5. It's exactly on curve. When it attacks, if it's not suspected, you may suspect it. Okay, this is good. Because you can either, if you don't need to suspect it to punch through, then don't, because it can block if you need. I mean, it's not going to be, if you attack with it, it doesn't have vigilance, so. But you can suspect it if you need it to punch through if they've only got one creature. Or you can leave it unsuspected, and then if you need it to block later, you have it. I think this is a good. I think this is a good card. I'd probably play this for 5. Like at the very top end, if I've got nothing better, I'd play this. Hey, Shock! You're not as good as Play with Fire, but I like Shock. Shock's a damn good card. I am glad to see Shock back. I mean, it never left standard, but Shock in a format's always funny. Because you just, it's common and you just, lots of stuff. Suspicious Detonation. Okay. So 5 mana. This spell costs 3 less to cast if you sacrifice an artifact this turn. Please, there's so many artifact sacrifice. Can't be countered, deals 4 damage to target creature. It's a bit overpriced for if you're just playing it raw. Like 5 mana for 4 damage is a lot. But if you're paying it for 2, this is 2 mana, deal 4, it can't be countered. This is good removal, I think. Again, if you're playing, if you have a whole deck built around making artifacts and then sacrificing them, this is a really good card. But you have to have that deck. But that deck is definitely out there with Krenko and all the clues and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Torch the Witness. Fuck me. 1 and X deals twice X damage to a creature. If excess damage was dealt to that creature this way, investigate. This is a good card. It's just removal. Removal with upside because you get a clue out of it. And as we've seen, clue tokens are going to be very good in red at least. Vengeful Tracker. 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever an opponent sacrifices an artifact, it deals 2 damage to them. This is good. Because this will slow your opponent down. If they're trying to sacrifice to draw cards. Because, I mean, 2 damage is a lot. Like, especially if you've managed to get some attacks in. Like, your opponent's down to, like, 14. And they start trying to sacrifice clues. They sacrifice 7 clues. They're going to die. It'll make them think about whether they want to sacrifice their clues or not. And making your opponent have to think about more things is a good way to get some... to force some mistakes, let's say. And lots of people will forget about this until it pings them, so it's a good card.